Yes, I'll start the class now. So, welcome students. This is today we'll be discussing on Guillain-Barré syndrome and muscular dystrophies and MCQs based on that. Huh? MCQs based on that. Okay. So, how many of you can tell me what is Guillain-Barré syndrome? Just few words. Anybody you want to answer? What is Guillain-Barré syndrome?
Ascending
An
paralysis.
autoimmune disease.
Huh?
Autoimmune disease.
Guillain-Barré syndrome is
An autoimmune.
autoimmune disease. Then is a disease of the upper motor neuron or lower motor neuron? I am asking very simple question. You should answer this. Guillain-Barré syndrome is a disease of upper motor neuron or lower motor neuron. It is a disease of lower motor neuron.
Lower.
Yeah, it is a disease of lower motor neuron. It could be demyelinating or axonal. Axonal. Demyelinating is usually motor. Axonal could be motor and sensory. Okay, that means demyelinating disease will be motor involvement. That is motor nerves are involved here. Here in the axonal, pure axonal, motor is there. Axonal, motor sensory is there. These are types, and there is Miller Fisher syndrome. One more. These are the classically described types of GB syndrome. So AIDP. What is AIDP? Acute inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy. That is AIDP. Okay. And something called muscular dystrophies. We'll discuss. Okay. Just I'll move on. So patient is the MCQ. I'm starting with a patient wakes up with development of ascending paralysis, areflexia, and splinter sparing is reflection splinter sparing. Diagnosis is, what do you think? A patient has come to you and he has come to the complaints of, on the morning he found himself having ascending paralysis. So ascending paralysis is there. Then there is areflexia and sphincters are spared. That means bowel and bladder are spared. What do you think? A patient?
Second, sir.
Huh?
Guillain-Barré
Hello?
syndrome.
What?
Guillain-Barré syndrome. Second.
Guillain-Barré syndrome.
Guillain-Barré syndrome, CBS. Yeah. So Guillain-Barré syndrome. How a patient of botulism will present? Anybody knows? Botulism. So what is botulism?
Neurotoxin.
Toxin.
It is a
Neurotoxin.
predominantly neurotoxin. Huh? It is a neurotoxin. I think I got slide over. Yeah. See, the classically described bacteria which produces botulism is Clostridium botulinum. This is a Clostridium. And this, when a person injects spores of this bacteria in the GIT, these spores hatch out and produce botulism toxicity. Toxemia of botulism it will produce. And apart from the GIT, even the infected wound can also have a botulism manifestations. These are the few. There are many more types of reasons to get botulism. These are two which are more common. So one is ingestion of spores, other one is infection from the skin, which can cause botulism. And that it is a basically a neurotoxin. Neurotoxin acting on neuromuscular junction. What is neuromuscular junction? I want you to answer this. Neuromuscular junction. What is neuromuscular junction? See, the motor nerve, the axon of the motor nerve, it has got a dilatation here, and there is a motor end plate. See, this is a presynaptic, this is a postsynaptic. This is a synapse actually. So this is a postsynaptic area. This presynaptic area, it secretes acetyl acetylcholine. This is secreted acetylcholine, and there are receptors of acetylcholine on the postsynaptic area. On binding with the acetylcholine will go and bind to these receptors, and it will cause depolarization. Depolarization and the impulse. This is a motor muscle actually. Nerves. I'll draw this here. The nerve will come, and distal part is dilated here, and this is the motor end plate which is there on the muscle fiber. This is a muscle fiber, and this motor and presynaptic na, it will secrete what? Acetylcholine. This acetylcholine will bind with the receptors of the postsynaptic motor end plate, and from here when it binds, it will cause depolarization and impulse to contract. The muscle will be initiated. So that's how the flow of impulse will happen. This is how the mechanism in brief. We'll discuss more about this motor and plate and all that when I'm discussing with the myasthenia gravis probably in the next class. Okay, because this just I gave introduction here. So this botulism, what it does is it acts on presynaptic axons, terminal end. Terminal end act, and it blocks the release of acetylcholine. So it blocks the release of acetylcholine from the motor nerve endings. Thus, it causes paralysis of the muscle. Paralysis of the muscle. So, and paralysis of the muscle is usually descending. The most common involvement is eye muscles. Eye oculomotor muscles, extraocular muscles are the most common. Ptosis. Manifestation initially will be ptosis, cranial nerve palsy, then respiratory failure. Respiratory failure. This is the classical way. This is the NM junction. NM junction. This is usually present like this. Neuromuscular disorders, they involve this the eye. It has got this ocular muscles have got different NM junction. There is a paucity of acetylcholine there. That's why in all NM junctions diseases, they usually start from eye. Unlike the disease which of spinal nerve, axonal, demyelinating, they start with the limbs. It is basically the NM junction of these eye muscles is different. That's the reason. So there is a selective manifestation of the diseases of NM junction affecting the ocular muscles. Probably more this will be discussed when I'm discussing myasthenia gravis, where it is actually a discussion on NM junction. Okay, this botulism, this toxin will reduce the acetylcholine causes. That's why the paralysis is what? Descending. But in GB syndrome, the classical presentation is ascending. But botulism is a descending. And now other choice that was given is snake bite. Snake bite. So snake bite leads also causes similar to the see the snake bite can cause DIC. One type of snakes can cause DIC, that is hematological manifestation. It also can cause neurological manifestations. So toxins of the snake can affect DIC as well as neurotoxins. So when it develops the neurological manifestations, it produces ptosis, similar to the botulism. Ptosis it down and later respiratory failure. That's how it affects snake bite. So respiratory muscle paralysis happens with the. It is also affects actual NM junction only. See, there are types of toxins which can, in fact, snake bite can go and affect the what is this decrease calcium. What happens is acetylcholine is released from the presynaptic axon by calcium influx into the axon. This is a calcium influx will be prevented by the snake bite. One type of toxin can do that. Can cause. But there are the different snakes have a different type of neurotoxins. So one group of neurotoxin can be presynaptic. It can be even postsynaptic also. So presynaptic snake bite will actually affect the calcium influx into the axons and thus the acetylcholine release from the presynaptic axon will be decreased and it can cause paralysis. The other type is, in fact, there can be excess secretion of ACH or not exactly ACH. The toxin will go and bind the postsynaptic receptor of ACH and it can cause hyperstimulation. So continuous impulse will be there. By producing such a continuous impulse formation, their muscle can go into paralysis. That is because of it will affect even sodium channels. All other channels will be affected due to that hyperstimulation by the toxins, which will bind the ACH receptors on the postsynaptic area, can cause paralysis. Even hyperstimulation can cause paralysis, and less stimulation also can cause paralysis due to snake bite. And the clinical manifestation is doses. This is also descending type only. So that is about snake bite. Apart from that, the patient who has got a snake bite will have this inflammation at the site of bite. It is very rare not to have inflammation at the site of bite and the patient having manifestations. Usually there will be infection area and that will cause. And one thing all of you should know, a patient who comes with snake bite should receive anti-snake venom. If they do anti-snake venom, what happens is it can decrease the effect of the toxin on the nerves. Apart from blocking the neuromuscular junction, if left unchecked, it can even damage the axons and may lead to permanent problem. So the early by giving anti-snake venom, you can reduce the damage to the nerves also. That benefit can be achieved with the anti-snake venom. That's one thing you should remember. And apart from that, you will have to give antibiotics. That is, the patient who has got bitten snake, the local site can get cellulitis, and some patients have lost limbs because of the cellulitis. They have survived the snake bite, but the local area infection can, if not treated properly, may end up with the amputation. This problem can also happen. That's why the proper local site treatment is equally important. And more than that, the traditionally in village, they will apply mud, this, that, and come and further worsen the problem of the local area. That is a challenge the doctors have to face. In India, when there is a snake bite, they will apply all sort of things on the snake bite area, and in fact, they will worsen the local problems. We've seen the complication because of that. Super at a snake bite, you already have a problem, and if the patient has come with one more additional problem, that can happen. And polio, definitely it is not ascending paralysis. Polio, this doesn't come there here. And polio is a development of ascending paralysis, not there. Okay, that's about. So the choices of this are ruled out, and what is left is GBS. GBS is a ascending more often, ascending paralysis, which is element type, predominantly motor, sometimes can be sensory, and bowel and bladders are less involved. Okay. Any doubts here? Shall I move to the next question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So Clostridium, snake bite, polio. Okay. Now, a patient has presented with ascending muscle paralysis. Now you have got a patient who has presented ascending muscle paralysis for 2 days. On examination, limb is flaccid. Now this patient has got a flaccid limb. So if the person says flaccid limb, what do you think? It is UMN type, LMN type. So I have never seen anybody asking this UMN LMN. Why you got any confusion? Shall I go details about UMN LMN? Students, the basic funda of CNS is to know what is LMN paralysis and what is UMN paralysis. Students, tell me what is LMN and UMN. Suchit,
Yes, sir.
tell me what is LMN paralysis, UMN paralysis. You get a flaccidity or spasticity in element paralysis.
So flaccidity.
Flaccidity. Element paralysis, you get a flaccid. UMN spasticity. Fine.
Yes.
And extrapyramidal rigidity. Did I put things in again into problem? So element paralysis flaccid. UMN paralysis spastic. Extrapyramidal. UMN means it is pyramidal. I'm talking about pyramidal now. UMN means pyramidal. So you will get a spasticity. And extrapyramidal is what? Students, you tell you extrapyramidal is rigidity. I discussed extrapyramidal one last few class back on Parkinsonism and all those things I discussed. I expect you to know that. Huh? Okay then. Is there any confusion here? Shall I go to the next? Okay, where I am. Okay. So flaccidity can occur from element paralysis, and it can also occur from NM disease, neuromuscular disease. It can also occur from muscle problem itself. Muscle problem itself. So element. So when you get a patient with flaccid limb, and there's one more concept called neurogenic shock. When the acute UMN disease is there, temporarily there can be flaccid, and it goes back into rigid spasticity after some time. That is called as neurogenic shock or craniogenetic shock or neurogenic shock, people call it. Okay, the flaccid limb is there in this case, and they're asking this what you want to estimate. How do you correlate this? You have got a patient who has got a weakness, and they're asking this calcium, magnesium, potassium, sodium. Hello?
Serum potassium.
Why?
Because nerves get affected. Neurotransmitter.
What? Who is it?
For action potentials.
Huh? Okay, what happened to the action potential in serum potassium? Sirisha. I think it was Sirisha. Huh?
Yes, sir.
What happens to action potential? If the potassium is basically intracellular or extracellular?
Intracellular.
Yeah. It is a cation or anion?
Cation.
Cation.
No.
And if there is a deficiency of the cation, negativity will increase or decrease?
Increase. Negativity increase.
Yeah, then that means the cell will become more negative.
More negative.
People are getting? So if the potassium being a intracellular cation, if there is a deficiency of cation, the intracellular negativity will be more. And if the intracellular negativity goes down further, there is some threshold like thing in action potential. I think so people know it.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember a threshold?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. If the intracellular negativity or otherwise called as hyperpolarization. If there is a hyperpolarization, it moves far down from threshold value. So the action potential threshold will be difficult to reach. I'll draw the diagram and tell you, because I'm seeing you people. How many of you are really getting me? Huh? Fine. I'll come back on the slide. See. Hello? Anything? See suppose this is how the action potential goes. Huh? Now this is 0. Suppose this is the threshold 0. Huh? This is a threshold. Huh? If somehow the impulse reaches up till here, suddenly there is a formation of action potential. That's how this is 0 line. Huh? This is a threshold, could be, I think so, it is more upon minus 45 millivolt, I believe. Fine. If it is near to the minus 45, the possibility of coming here and getting up is more likely. Huh? With a small impulse. For example, if it is far away, even whatever impulse comes, it will not reach here. And the formation of action potential becomes difficult. So in presence of a K minus decrease, the hyperpolarization of the muscle leads to paralysis. You understood the concept?
Yes, sir.
Students?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
So how the potassium deficiency causes paralysis is this. So a patient comes with the flaccid paralysis of acute onset. Acute onset, you check potassium. There are terms like familial, periodic paralysis. There are many reasons. Periodic paralysis is there. Hypokalemic periodic paralysis, normocalemic periodic paralysis, hyperkalemic periodic paralysis. All sorts of paralysis are there. Huh? They are familial. They manifest early in life. They start with when the patient is 25 years. They are related to excessive strain, carbohydrate diet, and all that. They are familial. Now, in this case, we are dealing with a case who has come with the flaccid limb and paralysis, and there is a potassium decrease. This could happen due to GE, gastroenteritis, also diuretic drugs. So many things are there. This can cause hypokalemia. You give a lot of diuretic drugs, especially a patient who is heart failure or cirrhosis. So many patients can have potassium down because of drug. And acute GE can cause this down potassium. It can happen. So a patient has got a hypokalemia is more likely to develop paralysis. And if you get a decrease calcium, what do you get? Hypocalcemia, what you get?
Osteoporosis.
Tetany.
Yes, okay.
Tetany. Good. You get tetany. And if it is a more calcium, you get dehydration. Dehydration, also long-term stone formation. Okay? Stone formation. Calcium secretion dependent on what? Parathyroid hormone secretion. Okay? And if there is a decreased magnesium, this will actually leads to decreased parathyroid hormone secretion by parathyroid hormone secretion, thus can cause even decreased calcium. So decreased magnesium can cause hypocalcemia by decreasing the parathyroid hormone. That means actually the hypomagnesemia leads to secondary hypocalcemia. Secondary because decreased parathyroid hormone secretion. Okay. Now will come these two issues. So if there is a decreased magnesium, it leads to increased excretion of potassium. So decreased magnesium can cause what? Hypokalemia, and thus even can cause what? Paralysis. How? Decreased magnesium increases the excretion of potassium through the urine, and thus lead to hypokalemia. It can cause. You should always know that. So more often in ICU patients, what we'll be doing now? We give them a potassium to correct it. This problem we face in the ICUs. So potassium will give IV infusion to correct it. But the patient potassium is not improving only. You go on giving morning, you give 2 ampoules, you come and see somehow it's not improving. Then you think, what could be wrong? Because the patient is excreting through the urine because of decreased magnesium. Decreased magnesium, the potassium is not getting replenished. So if a patient is resistant to potassium correction, then check magnesium and correct magnesium. Then potassium correction becomes feasible. Okay. So patient who has got a resistance to treatment of correction of potassium, check magnesium, correct magnesium, then thus the potassium will become correctable. And sodium will cause seizure, coma. Or not seizure, hypo will cause coma, increase will cause seizure. Sodium. So that's about this. So I think the same thing I written here. I'll go to Sanskrit slides. Okay, discuss this. A 12-year-old girl presented with on and off abdominal colicky pain for last 1 year. She exhibits aggressive behavior and developed paraparesis of the last 2 days. What is the likely diagnosis? Conversion disorder, acute inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy, acute intermittent porphyria, chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy. What do you think?
Chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy. Fourth option.
Hold on, somebody is trying to join. I'll admit him. Arey, Mayank left suddenly. Okay. Suchit, he is from Jammu. Okay, right. I think someone lost connection. He has got problems with the internet. He had told me that. Okay, anyway. Who said a chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy? I did not get it. Who? Manju.
Manjunath.
Why you think it is CIDP?
Yes.
You get abdominal pain
Chronic
in CIDP?
course.
Huh?
That inflammation.
What? Hold on. You tell me what? Inflammation. Inflammation where? Inflammation where? See, they got a 12-year-old girl presented with on and off abdominal colicky pain for last 1 year. Oh, 1 year history is there. So that's why you want to go for chronicity. Fine. See, exhibits aggressive behavior. Why you expect aggressive behavior in CIDP? Now, Manju, you tell the rest of students what is CIDP. I had told you last time. I will be there to rectify things because I want it to be more and more interactive so that you people learn more and you will go back and read that in what the stimulus I give that should make you to go back and read. Okay. So CIDP means what? Chronic. More than 4 weeks, some people say. The progression of the disease. See, the acute means acute. See, it is both are demyelinating. You can see. This is GBS only. Type of Guillain-Barré syndrome. If Guillain-Barré syndrome progression, worsening of symptoms is happening more than 4 weeks. Some people are 6 weeks. Then you start thinking in terms of CIDP. Okay, that's what is CIDP. So here the paralysis, everything is ascending or descending, whatever. The ascending type, it slowly progresses. That's all, worsens. That's all is CIDP. And these patients will not have this aggressive behavior and this abdominal pain and all that. How many of you seen a movie? It was in Kannada. I think so. There is one movie, even it must have been dubbed into many more languages. So I had seen it when I was in final MBBS. That was in 94. It was called Beladingala Bale. Nodiyana Manju? Anant Nag was there. He'll be a chess player. You have seen this movie? Huh? Old movie. You just see that when you got time. Okay. So what is the just now in that movie now? This is Anant Nag, I think so all India people know. He's one of the good actors. Huh? You youngsters will not be knowing, I know, right? Our generation know him. So he will be a chess player. He'll be a very intelligent guy. He'll be getting one phone calls. Then caller ID was not there. It was long back in 94. You used to not get, you will not know from where the call has come. So caller ID was not there. I'm talking about 1992. We did not have, we could not know from where you get the phone call. Phone itself was a very expensive thing. He'll be owner of the one big company, and at the same time, he'll be a very good chess player. He'll be a master, something, what is this they call now? He'll be very good chess player. That's all. Now he'll be getting a call from one girl, and she'll be suffering from this. Suddenly now she used to get admitted. She used to call for about 3-4 days, and suddenly she used to miss. Suddenly stop calling her. It'll cause a lot of problem for him. That was because she used to call back after some days. I was admitted here. I had this problem. She used to tell him, and she'll tell him that I got this rare disease, acute intermittent porphyria. Because of the suddenly I have to get admitted because I get pain abdomen. And they had taken the classical history. Scientifically, they have done this. So she used to get, whenever she used to get episodes of pain abdomenia, aggressive behavior, and all that, she used to get admitted. So she used to not be able to call him. And this person used to become more irritable because she is the person who is supposed to call. She is not call him like that. The movie goes on and she will die at the end of the movie. Okay, just find out that movie if you can get it somewhere. Anyway, let's come back. And of course, that girl was not 12 years in that. She will be more than that. This case here it is 12 years. Okay, a 12-year-old girl. In fact, that confusion will lie for him. What is the age of the girl? She will come to know last. In fact, he can't even see the dead body. Okay, anyway. The girl of 12-year-old presented with abdomen colicky pain. Somebody came? Okay, no issues. Yeah, what has happened to this? Okay. So definitely a patient, this unlikely 12-year-old girl conversion reaction we don't expect now. See is aggressive behavior lasting like this is unlikely because she's 12 years. And acute inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy will not produce with abdomen colicky pain and all that. And paraparesis, okay, it can happen. Paraparesis, but this aggressive behavior and all that is not a feature of it. So this is unlikely. This. So not this. And chronic, similarly, it is not possible. So this is a choice. Let us learn something more about acute intermittent porphyria. There are many types of porphyrias. You just go and see. Read them. This is one of the common ones. It is an autosomal dominant disorder. What do you mean by dominant? Means if that gene is there, it is going to manifest. Recessive means single gene may not manifest. Both the genes are there, then it will manifest. And if it manifests, it is very bad. Recessive. If it doesn't manifest, usually it is very mild. Only this, if it is enzymatic and all that, the recessive single gene can cause some problems. But if it is structural one, the recessive may not even manifest at all. Okay, that's it. The autosomal dominant is it is there. Reduce HMB synthesis activity. Attacks are triggered by the pain, abdomen, all that, drugs, steroids, and diet. Clinical features are recurrent abdominal pain, abdominal distension, tachycardia, peripheral neuropathy, axonal degeneration. Something like GB syndrome, it can happen. Motor neuropathy involving the proximal muscles, sensitization paralysis can also be there. Mental symptoms, depression, paranoia, hallucinations can occur. They're all there. Treatment with intravenous hemin, carbohydrate loading, narcotic analgesia for pain abdomen, phenothiazines. These are drugs to be given. It's about something about acute intermittent porphyria. Of course, it is not there related to the CNS because choice was there. I have put it here. I remember that movie also. That's why one more reason. The patient with the dermatomyositis reports improvement in symptoms on steroids for 6 months. These dermatomyositis, polymyositis, they are actually rare diseases, but the problem is they are asking questions on that. Because these are all questions which are asked. I am putting it here. Purposely, I picked up some questions which are very unusual, so that you people should get a wider view and you should know what not to miss, at least, if I have to put it correct. What all things you should not miss. Main things definitely you have to read, but apart from this, don't miss these topics also. Okay. So dermatomyositis. See the patient of dermatomyositis. I have never seen a patient of dermatomyositis anyway. So okay. The reports with the improvements in symptoms on steroids for last 6 months. Labs done up today show creatine kinase of this much increased only. What is the next step in the management? Continue same dose of steroids, raise the dose of steroids, start mycophenolate, perform muscle biopsy. So one thing you should know, most of the medical diseases, if there is improvement in symptoms, that is more good than the looking at the lab values. Okay. You should, I think so, many times your teachers must have told you, don't treat reports. Okay. You are treating patient. So I get some value, don't start treatment. Or not shut down the treatment. You have to look at the patient and examine him, then take a call. Fine. And there are many more things apart from the lab reports in a patient. So this patient, as is a dermatomyositis patient, he is on steroids. Now the lab report is showing the creatine kinase is on the higher side. Should I raise the dose? Should I add on more dose? Or should I really think of whether I'm dealing with a case of a dermatomyositis or not? Like that. Why you want to report perform biopsy? Because you are doubting your diagnosis, what you have done. Okay, should I do this? See the question that here the most important thing is there's improvement here. So if there is an improvement, better stick to your guns. If there's a improvement, better stick to your guns. Don't change the treatment that frequently. And these reports do not dictate the dose of steroids. It is a clinical improvement. The ultimate real goal in a patient dermatomyositis is steroids or immunosuppression to improve the symptoms or a muscle power. I'll come to what is dermatomyositis. Improve the muscle power. That is the real goal. So do not change the treatment. That's what is there. So that answer is continue same treatment. Now we'll discuss something about dermatomyositis and polymyositis. So dermatomyositis, females are more commonly involved. Here also females are more commonly involved. Dermatomyositis involves children as well as adults, but this involves only adults. Dermatomyositis, there is a rash. This is a type of rash. On the external surface, you can see the rashes. On the elbow, you can see this rash. Here also, you can see this rash. These are types of rash. Apart from the muscle involvement, there is a rash. Proximal muscles are more involved than the distal. Proximal more. Creatine kinase is 50 times more. This is also 50 times more. This is perimysial inflammation. This is a endomysial inflammation. Here it is predominantly CD4 count. It is CD8 count here. Myocarditis can happen here as well as here. Interstitial lung disease, it can be associated with a malignancy. Dermatomyositis, malignancy, and vasculitis are other CTDs. So these are the points to remember here. Okay. This is not a common disease. Somehow they're asking questions on that. So dermatomyositis treatment is, I told you, the steroids. You have to give an adjust dose. Second drugs are also there. Methotrexate, azathioprine. They are not that effective as the first dose. Check steroid induced. One more thing. A patient who was responding to your steroids, if you start developing weakness of the muscles, and there's one entity called as steroid induced myopathy. You should always keep this in mind. Whenever you are treating a patient on steroids or long disease, the patient can develop myopathy due to steroid, and that you have to check. In this case, you will have a confusion between relapse versus steroid induced drugs, steroid induced complication. So CK levels do not dictate the treatment. Of course, you can, if you are suspecting myopathy now, steroid-induced myopathy, worsening relapse, maybe you can check the CK. If they are normal or if they are not really increasing, probably the worsening could be steroid-induced myopathy. This sort of approach can be used. But CK levels do not totally dictate the treatment. Dermatomyositis treatment, the main objective, same thing. I told you this. Okay, 35-year-old lady presents. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Read the question. I'm seeing you people actually. I came back here online. Okay. So 35-year-old lady presents with a progressive weakness of both legs and sensory loss below the belly button. Huh? She gives a history of a low grade fever last week. DTR is normal. DTR is normal. All investigations should be done except. What is the diagnosis for your suspect in this case? This patient you have got a 35-year-old lady has come. She has got a progressive weakness below the of both legs and sensory, has even sensory loss below the. There is a level. Huh? Some level is there. Below this area, there is a problem. That's what it is telling now. She gives a history of low grade fever, huh, for 1 week. And DTR, deep tendon reflexes, are normal. They are not lost. So if they are normal, do you think it is element? If deep tendon reflexes are normal, do you think it is an element or UMN? In fact,
UMN.
UMN.
huh? UMN.
UMN, sir.
You should bet on UMN actually. They may get exaggerated later, but if you got a normal DTR, bet on UMN. Don't bet on LMN. Fine. Okay. Because there is a DTR, deep tendon reflexes are normal, it will get exaggerated later. So bet on UMN. Now you come when you're thinking of UMN. So what could be the diagnosis? What am I thinking? Transverse myelitis. So what is transverse myelitis? Students, transverse myelitis means you got a spinal cord. Okay. At the some level, this much area or could be this much area, yeah, there is a inflammation. It could be autoimmune overrated, whatever. There is a inflammation. So the below this level, there will be paralysis as well as sensory loss. Okay, it is a myelopathy. It is a myelopathy. It is a transverse myelitis is a myelopathy. There is a level here, and whatever is the level, it could be thoracic T2, T3, L1, L2, like that. There is a level. So transverse myelitis, there is a level. Something like it is a transaction of the cord here. Whatever is below this will not be functional, and that will become UMN. Below this, the lesion will manifest like a UMN. So the UMN management ankle reflex, knee jerk, they'll be exaggerated along with sensory loss. Could be PAN, both spinothalamic and dorsal column. Both tracts are lost. What is spinothalamic tract? Students, what is spinothalamic tract? Lateral, otherwise. These are sensory tracts which run laterally in the spinal cord. They are ascending. That means they take up the impulse of the periphery and relay it to the brain. So these ascending tracts, they carry pain, temperature, and crude touch. See these, and this spinothalamic tract, they carry this, and there is a dorsal column. This dorsal column will transmit what? Fine touch, tactile localization, tactile discrimination, proprioception. What is proprioception? What is proprioception?
Object.
Yeah, position of your body. That's all. That's not it goes. How whether your arm is flexed, fingers are abducted, all those things. There, They pass through proprioception. Okay. All these are dorsal column. Okay. And you got a motor tracts. That is a pyramidal tracts. Pyramidal tracts. Pyramidal tracts. So in the transverse myelitis, all these tracts are lost. So thus causing paralysis and sensory loss both. Below the level, above the level, things can be normal. Things are normal. That's how it is. Now he's asking all investigation should be done except what is ANA, anti-nuclear antibody. Where it is done? It is done in SLE. Usually,
Yes, sir.
anti-nuclear antibody is done in SLE.
Yes, sir.
Systemic lupus erythematosus. Okay. Okay. And EMG. So you do EMG. A patient who has lost sensation or suspecting muscle problem. So electromyography, na? A patient who has lost sensation apart from weakness, are you suspecting muscle problem or neuronal problem?
Muscle problem.
A patient who has lost sensory loss as well as weakness, both. So muscles problem or it is neuronal problem? See, the muscles don't give sensation. Fine touch is the muscle doesn't give that. So EMG is for motor. So this patient has got sensory as well as motor. So this disease is unlikely to be muscle problem. This is useless only. So patient who has got a transverse myelitis, who has got sensory and motor, both the weakness, the electromyography becomes useless. Because you know very well, this is not the case of muscle, it is a problem of nerve. Okay. So if you want to go to Rameshwar, you should not catch the train which is going to Jammu. Like that it will be. You know it is a muscle problem. It is know that there is sensory system involvement. Why check muscle? Think of nerves. Like that. No, this is useless. Definitely EMG is useless. Now LP you can, because this transverse myelitis can be infectious. Secondary to all that, you check that. MRI spine, we do it to know differentiate between compressive myelopathy versus non-compressive myelopathy. Compressive means there could be tumors. Intraspinal tumors can compress the spinal cord, or there could be pot spine. What is pot spine? Tuberculosis of the spine, causing the cold abscess or whatever protrude into the spinal canal and cause compression, thus lead to the myelopathy can happen. To know all these problems, do MRI spine imaging. If it is non-compressive myelopathy, you may even check the signal changes in the spinal cord that can be picked up with this. You can at least localize that the lesion is there. Apart from ruling out the compressive myelopathy, you can even rule in the transverse myelitis by getting the signal changes in the spinal cord. Those things can be done. So I told you this is transverse myelitis can happen along with as a complication of SLE. SLE patients can develop transverse myelitis. So that's the reason you can do this. LP to infection, MRI to this, but this is useless because there is sensory involvement. So it is not a case of EMG, and he has confused you by giving this DTR being normal. So in muscle disease, you get a deep tendon reflex are normal. So something about transverse myelitis, infections. These are the causes: infections, immune system disorders, rarely SLE, Sjogren's syndrome. There is a band-like sensation across the trunk, which at the level at which there is involvement, there is a band-like sensation will be there. So both motor and sensory system involved, bladder involved here. Suddenly, this happens suddenly like this. Any age and gender race can be affected. This is there is something called as neuromyelitis optica. Multiple sclerosis. There is a movie, I think so, multiple sclerosis. Who is that? Parinita, who is that Parinita? She'll be suffering from multiple sclerosis. Pranita. Divya Balan, eh? Vidya Balan, sorry. Her movie is there. She'll be having multiple sclerosis. One movie is there. I think so. She'll be some writer or something. And she'll be having multiple sclerosis. Do you know what is multiple sclerosis? How many of you know what is multiple sclerosis? It is the central nervous system localized here and there. There's a formation of inflammation. Due to inflammation, there's damage there. So patient will go on having adding together problem. Transverse myelitis, one episode will happen, for example. It will recover. Again, one more. Like that. It can happen some brain tissue somewhere. CNS, there can be paralysis because of that. See, the add-on disease goes on building up over span of many years. And later on, due to complication, patients may die. That is multiple sclerosis. The causes of transverse myelitis could be multiple sclerosis, this SLE, then post-infectious or post-vaccine. I think so. You know, there was a post-vaccine, this COVID vaccine. Some reports I read, COVID vaccine can cause this transverse myelitis. It seems. How far? I don't know. Herpes virus, cytomegalovirus, Epstein-Barr virus, flavivirus, Western, all these things can cause syphilis, tuberculosis. These slides are there. I'll post it. You can check this. Underlying cancer also can cause transverse myelitis. Treatment is again corticosteroids, plasmapheresis, IVIG. What is intravenous immunoglobulins? Which of the following is not transmitted from the female parent? So, female parent, how all things can get transmitted? You tell me. It can be X-linked. Okay. X-linked. Apart from X-linked, is there any way only mother can transmit to the child? Apart from X-linked disease, students. So most of you are left, huh? Okay, 9. Apart from muscle disease, what you said? Apart from X-linked, how many? Is there any way the mother can transmit disease to the child? What is mitochondrial DNA? See what happens when zygote forms. Zygote occurs in the ovum. From the father, only the DNA, nuclear DNA will reach the ovum. But the zygote, the ovum's mitochondria is again reused. So always the mitochondria of all of us have come from mother only. Okay. So the mitochondrial diseases will get what? Will always come from the mother. Okay. Mitochondrial diseases always come from the mother. Got it? So mitochondrial always come from the mother. Apart from, it can also come from the X-linked. It can be X-linked. And it can be even mitochondrial diseases. Now, when the question is asked here, which of the following is not transmitted from the female parent? So you have to look whether it is X-linked disease, the disease which is not X-linked. Okay. And which is the mitochondrial disease. Basically, is focusing on that. So mother can give. This Duchenne's is actually X-linked. This is mitochondrial. This is also mitochondrial. The what is choice left is only this one. Okay. So okay. We'll go through each of the choices so that when the question will be put to learn it. So myoclonic epilepsy is the ragged red fibers. It is these are all rare diseases. We'll go through. Try to remember as much as you want. Myoclonic epilepsy, it is a multisystem disorder with ragged red fibers. Myoclonic, which is often myoclonus is a often common symptom here. Generalized epilepsy, ataxia, weakness, and dementia can be there. Hearing loss, short stature, optic atrophy, cardiomyopathy with WPW syndrome. What is WPW syndrome?
Wolf Parkinson.
Wolf's Parkinson's White syndrome.
Nine.
Okay, it is there is a abnormal conduction tissue in between the atria and ventricle. The impulse of the atria to the ventricle normally happens only through the AV node. If there is one more accessory fiber which corrects the ring, that could be WPW syndrome. Okay. So muscle biopsy finding, you will get this in these cases, and it is a mitochondrial disorder. So it is a mother to child. Yeah, similarly, this Karen syndrome also mitochondrial onset at the age of 20. See the patient with a retina, pigment retinopathy, salt and paper pigmentation of the retina can affect the vision, but often it is okay, but sometimes it can affect the vision. Progressive external ophthalmoplegia can be there. Only thing now when they ask us tricky questions, we should at least know what are the mitochondrial disease names, so we can solve it. Huh? And this is one of the not that uncommon you may see in your practice one day. So Duchenne's and Baker's. Duchenne's is a muscular dystrophy. It is X-linked. See, X-linked recessive, muscular dystrophies. So to manifest, it should be both genes has to be there. That means mother has to give. If mother doesn't give, you will not get it. Because it is a recessive. Both mother and father have to give the gene. Then only it manifests. Recessive means. There is a dystrophin gene, that gene which is causing this, affected 1 in 3,000 male births. Why predominantly male? Because they have only one.
Only one X chromosome.
If the female has a suffer, both mother and father has to give it. Male can develop with only one. Okay. Proximal muscles, especially the lower extremities. Hypertrophy of the muscles. Yeah. See the. These are the lower limbs. This Pompeii, what is that? Cartoon is there, na? Pompeii, what is it?
Popeye, sir. Popeye.
Popeye, yeah. Popeye like a picture. He's a his arm is like this, but his forearm is like this. Forearm doesn't have, but actually the carpals are involved here. That is in limb girdle. See here, here this is a Duchenne's means one legs are involved here. Like this. Because there is a atrophy here, there is a secondary hypertrophy. So thigh muscles are atrophied, but the calf muscles are hypertrophied as a compensation. That's the reason. So you get proximal muscles, but secondary hypertrophy, calf muscles. It is a true hypertrophy. Yeah? Some old books they call it pseudo hypertrophy. It's not pseudo. It is true hypertrophy. There can be a question on that. It can cause mental retardation, cardiac involvement. This is the cause of death. Heart failure. Cardiac involvement causes heart failure, and that is the cause of death in Duchenne's. And this one in Baker's first of all. Western blot, analysis of muscle biopsy, absent dystrophin gene in DMD, that is Duchenne's, with reduction in Baker's. Glucocorticoids slow the progression in DMD. Die from observed cardiomyopathy. So, and limb girdle muscular atrophy, the males and females are equally affected here. Not only next link autosomal, you came to know that both males or females are equally affected. Means it is not X-linked. Progressive weakness, pelvic and shoulder girdle. So when it involves only the lower limbs, there can be a misdiagnosis of Duchenne's only sometimes, because it is pelvic and shoulder girdle, both are involved here. Limb girdle, limb and girdle both. Limb girdle. So respiratory insufficiency, diaphragm can happen, can cause the cause of death. Serum CK levels are elevated. EMG is myopathic. Autosomal dominant. Yeah, the alternate. The autosomal dominant, or it can be autosomal recessive. That's about that. Now, factory worker was employed in the plastic glass comes with the complaints of tingling sensation in the limbs, constipation, frequent episodes of abdominal pain. Now you got a factory worker who is being exposed to some mineral. You know that something is happening there, and he has got a GI symptoms. Constipation is there, frequent episodes of abdominal pain is there, all there. And X-ray of the limb shows, see now on X-ray of the limb shows increased shadows in the femur. There is increased shadow is there. Somehow they become more thick. Which of the following tests will be useful to diagnose the etiology in this case? So
Mercury level.
some mercury, some poison which is affecting the bones. Can mercury affect the bones? Can lead affect the bones? RBC cholesterol, cyanamide, hemoglobin level in the blood. So what you want to test in him? What is this? Can mercury poisoning affect the bones? No.
Yes, sir.
No, yes, sir. No. So lead can affect actually. It can affect teeth also. Lead. So this among these two, ALA levels is done for lead. Lead should PB, na? Sorry, it is PB. Lead is PB. Correct, huh? Lead. Lead can cause this. This is a correct answer actually. So this patient, I'll come to lead poisoning and mercury poisoning. Insidious motor onset neuropathy. Involving the wrist and finger extensions. Abdominal pain. Bartonian lines in the gums. Gums. And hematologically, this is a favorite question. Lead poisoning. They'll ask this. That's why I put this table. Macrocytic hypochromic anemia. Basophilic stripling. These are last this. Elevated serum levels. Elevated serum calpurpurin. Urine will show amino-linolenic acid. That is ALA. This one. This answer there. And mercury poisoning will cause multiple fever, leading to fatigue, weakness, dizziness, ejaculatory pain, acrodynia, pink disease with the erythema of the palm and soles with a desquamation, constipation, diarrhea, abdominal pain, hearing loss can be there. Erythema is a irritability and a social withdrawal and insomnia. These are CNS manifestations are there, but the bony things are not there in this. Anybody is trying to join? Okay. Mercury, they can call hair and hair loss. Keyboard operators and typists are especially susceptible to injury of the which nerve? Axillary, median, ulnar, radial. Students,
Anna,
ulnar. Why?
Yes, sir. Fine movements of the fingers, sir.
because little fingers.
Little finger. You use little finger. How many times you use a keyboard little finger? See, we're asking nerves. There are terminal things. Nah?
Sir,
Third finger.
sir,
Ring finger.
What? So when you hit the finger, you actually move the movement at what level? Finger or wrist? Usually there is a more movement even at the wrist. It is actually predominantly wrist. So if there is a wrist problem, what sort of problem you expect? What I'm writing? Carpal
Tunnel syndrome.
tunnel syndrome.
And this involves what nerve?
Second.
Medial.
Median nerve. Yeah. So these operators, typists and all that, they can develop carpal tunnel syndrome because how they keep their this one also. It can be sometimes that wrist it be resting on the edge of the table. That wrist that can also cause. There's a lot of movement at the level of the wrist, and that can cause median nerve problem, causing carpal tunnel syndrome. Let us learn something about carpal tunnel. Carpal tunnel syndrome, there is a pain in the distribution of the median nerve. It is thumb and second, third, half of the fourth finger. There is a thenar atrophy. What is Chinel sign? What is Phelan sign? Yeah, this is Chinel sign. If you press over the volar aspect of the wrist here, there is a sensation here, paresthesia in this area. Maybe 1.5 of it here. That is paresthesia. That is Chinel sign. Okay. Phelan sign is by moving this position. You can get a sensation in the distribution of ulnar nerve because there is a compression of median are here in the this one, carpal tunnel. That's it. Then causes are pregnancy, edema due to repetitive activity of the wrist. This is where the all questions fall. Trauma, osteoarthritis, inflammatory arthritis, inflammatory disorders like amyloidosis. Charcot joints. What are Charcot joints? Students, painless arthropathy it is. Arthritis which is not having pain. That can happen due to where the sensory loss is there. Syringomyelia. What is syringomyelia?
Sir, inflammation of spinal cord.
What?
Myelin sheath.
What?
Spinal sheath.
Yeah, central canal dilatation is basically. In the spinal cord, there is a central canal. Okay. In the spinal cord, there is a central canal. Is the spinal cord. In the center, there is a canal where CSF flows. And there is a dilatation of that. By dilatation, it will compress the nerves. It will dilate. I show the. I try to draw grossly. Sorry. Something like this. There is a spinal cord here, central canal. So the fibers which are nearby the central canal will get compressed because of syringomyelia. So what happens is the lateral spinal thalamic tract, which is coming here. When they enter the spinal cord, immediately they will cross to the opposite side. Okay. Unlike the dorsal column, which will cross to the opposite side at the level of the medulla in the brainstem. But lateral spinal thalamic tract, they cross to the opposite side immediately. Within 1 or 2 segments only, it will cross to the opposite side. Thus, here there is a in front of central canal forms. If the dilatation, there is a pressure on this. So what happens is, if it happens at the level of shoulder, the spinal thalamic tract sensation is lost on the both shoulders. That means pain and temperature is lost on the shoulders. Okay, it can happen. That is a syringomyelia. And later on, if there is a further dilatation, it can even involve the pyramidal tracts. Pyramidal tracts, thus cause lower motor. And even here, at the level it will cause a LMN, lower motor. It can compress and cause UMN. That can happen. But usually it involves a LMN type of paralysis to the and sensor loss to the at the level of the lesion. That is syringomyelia. So as there is loss of sensation, the joint will be painless joint problems. Leprosy, pain is lost. Diabetes, you also know this. There's a loss of pain, diabetic foot and all that. They can develop Charcot joints. What is this? Arthrogryposis multiplexa congenita. So it is a congenital means at the birth. See, in the womb, if the baby is not moving much, there can be contracture formation. That's what it is actually. If the baby is not moving, a lot of movements enter the womb, in the mother's womb, that will carry formation of the contracture and that causes arthrogryposis multiplexa congenita. What is Grover Manuel?
The third.
What is it? See, in Duchenne's, the proximal muscle weakness will be there. The person from supine to stand up, he will pass through a stage. First, what he'll do is from supine, the person is sleeping like this. Suppose, okay, he's sleeping like this. He has to get up now. What he does from this position, what he'll do is he'll go into this position. Okay. Then in next stage, he will climb on himself. He'll put both support, take support of both leg, both upper arm limb and the lower limb, and climb on himself. Okay, that's what is Grover's maneuver. Patient will climb on himself to get erect position. That is Duchenne's. You can get that. I forgot to put that image. There's a fantastic image in Harrison actually. I don't know why I forgot it. All are true about Miller-Fisher syndrome except Tell me, all are true in Miller-Fisher syndrome. See, Miller-Fisher syndrome is a type of GB syndrome. Here it involves the ophthalmoplegia, pupillary paralysis will be there. There can be areflexia, but muscle weakness is not same. There is no muscle weakness. If there is a muscle weakness, then it is not Miller-Fisher syndrome. Okay, it GB syndrome affecting the eye and with loss of reflexes. It is basically Miller-Fisher syndrome. Muscle weakness is not a feature of Miller. Last class I discussed this. A man has acute onset of paraplegia with a symmetrical bilateral or reflexia. Okay. Acute onset of bilateral symmetrical or reflexia diagnosis is. What is the diagnosis?
C.
Why not A? Why not A? This is paraplegia, na? Why you jump to C? What is this? See, you expect a DTR to be increased, but there is loss of reflex. It probably is a LMN disease. So your choice of GB is actually correct. But you should think of A also. Your reflex is there. That's why this is not taken. You will take this. I'll come to discussion on that. Okay, one table. This is motor findings, paraparesis or quadriparesis. There is a quadriparesis now. See, in transverse maladies, both if there is a quadriparesis, that means all the four limbs are involved. Suppose what happens in transverse maladies is the upper limb involvement is not that severe compared to the lower limb in transverse maladies. Whereas in GB syndrome, it is equally lower limb. Sorry, in transverse maladies, the upper limb and lower limb both are equally affected if there is a quadriparesis. Whereas in GB syndrome, the upper limb involvement is not that severe compared to the lower limb involvement. And sensory findings, they are there in transverse maladies, they are not there here usually. Autonomic findings, early loss of bowel and bladder. The bowel and bladder involvement is late, but there can be cardiac manifestations. Cranial findings are rare in transverse maladies. Not there. In fact, it is spinal cord disease now. Why should how cranial loss are involved? Whereas Miller-Fisher, I told you na, GBS syndrome can happen. Electrophysiologically, what is this? LM and nerves are normal. So nerve conduction is abnormal, normal here. Whereas it is a LMN disease. So naturally, the nerve conduction disease will show demyelinating or axonal disease in GB syndrome. MRI findings, what you get here in all those the T2 signal, spinal cord and all that. Whereas MRI is, it is not being a myelopathy, the GB syndrome will show normal MRI. CSF, there is a albinocytological dissociation here. That means proteins are increased, cells are normal here. That is in GB syndrome. Okay. CSF finding, same question. See, CSF finding Guillain-Barré syndrome. Normal cells with increased protein with the increased cells, normal cells with normal protein, increased cells with the low sugar. Just now I told you this. Finish this. This is the last question.
So first.
Yeah, good, fantastic. Because there is albinocytological dissociation, the increased cells. These are causes for albinocytological dissociation. Anyway, these slides are there. You can go through these causes. Apart from GB syndrome, there are other causes. Just go through that. Okay. So, any doubts? Friends?
Yes, sir.
No doubt, sir.
No, sir.
Was the class longer?
No, sir.
No, I'm just concerned about that. Okay, then if you don't have doubts, then
Sir, there is one doubt, sir.
yeah, thank you. Tell me.
Sir, you said in Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, is there hypertrophy or pseudo hypertrophy?
See, there is a atrophy of the involved muscles and the distal calf muscles. There is a real hypertrophy. compensatory, na? Somewhere the muscles will compensate to a certain extent. There is true hypertrophy there. It is not pseudo hypertrophy. It was a misnomer. In old books, when I was reading, it was there. Now they are telling specifically it is not pseudo hypertrophy.
But it inflates with the fat. There is fat accumulation, so we can say that it's a pseudo hypertrophy.
No. The muscles are telling you, for example, the muscles of the calf. Muscles of the calf in a patient with Duchenne's. Duchenne's involve what? Proximal muscles. You got it? Duchenne's will involve the proximal muscles where you get those fat, this, that. But the muscles of the calf which are not involved will try to compensate by hypertrophying. But proximal muscles, there is a fat. I do agree. But distal muscles, they will try to do more work with these people are not trying now. For that, there will be actually true hypertrophy.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Like that it is. As you rightly said, the muscles of the involved muscles are having fat. Uninvolved muscles, they'll try to manage out. Now that's why there is a Popeye like Popeye. Not ruler, right? Popeye. That's what I was telling you. Huh? They will actually more hypertrophy. But although the power, ultimate power will not be that effective, but that will be there.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
You read Harrison, he has given that. Probably you'll get a better idea. Okay, these chapters which are discussed now, those things you at least focus on that.
Okay,
Anything?
Sir, also about that question, the keyboard, desktop,
Yeah, keyboard, yeah.
the wrist, the fingers are involved. So
Fingers are not involved there actually. Finger injury can be there, but the question is asking on the nerves only. The choices were only nerves. He is asking you to see why only little finger should involve. Why only he will be, if at all, if the good typist who knows all the 5 fingers, he may damage the terminal phalanx. He may damage different problem. But when the question is asked involving the particular nerve, the choices are given on the nerve, you have to hit the nerve only now. In that, the choice should be the carpal tunnel syndrome and you have to choose median nerve. Tip finger involvement, that is a different issue. Injury and all that. But now the question is having 4 choices. Among them, there is given nerves. Of that nerves, you have to pick up and tell which is the cause. You getting the idea?
yes, sir.
It is not specifically you won't use thumb. You not you all the real typist will you use all the 4 this one like that it is. All the 5 fingers. So the nerve choice that is the correct one. Median nerve, carpal tunnel syndrome.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Good night.
Good night, sir.
Good night.